If you know anything about me, you know I play multiple gacha games. Among them, I have been pretty open in stating Wuthering Waves is one of the best gacha games on the market right now. But it didn't start like that. 1.0 was, for the most part, not very good, but patch after patch it improved. And then in 2.0, Wuthering Waves put itself on an entirely different level. Everyone was talking about it, and this is what got me to play again after being away for about a year. I don't regret my decision, but it can be argued that as good as Wuthering Waves is, it was still just a gacha game. No risk, no spice. It's just a high-class fast food restaurant. But version 2.5 has done something that shocked many people, myself included. It dropped a banger of a story, and more importantly, it has caused a massive outrage where people now actually hate the main protagonist. We're going to go over the story, why it works so well, and why this is so important to talk about in general. Since I don't regularly cover Wuthering Waves, I'm going to limit the scope of this discussion to just version 2.5, just so we don't get caught in the weeds. Also, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Again, I don't usually cover Wuthering Waves, so the engagement is extra helpful than usual because it satisfies the algorithm. Many WoWa players were worried about this update, and that mainly pertains to the banner character, Frolova. Frolova has been one of the primary antagonists of the story. Her actions have led to the deaths of many innocent people, and even if you want to give her the benefit of the doubt, she is still willing to work with the Fraxidus, an organization that is literally trying to destroy the current world in order to forge a new one. She's a bona fide villain. The question weighing on everyone's mind was Frolova going to go through a redemption arc? This was a valid question thanks to the standards Hoyoverse made. I don't play Genshin Impact, but I know people were very disappointed at how Raiden Shogun was handled as a villain, because once it was time to pull her, she just suddenly stopped being one. And ever since then, we just haven't gotten any true blue villains as playable characters in any of the Hoyoverse games. I guess you can count the Stellaron Hunters and Honkai Star Rail, but the story does everything they can to make them as non-antagonistic as possible. They even made two of the members your mom and your girlfriend. And Hugo from Zenless was looking to be one of those morally gray villains, but they kinda just didn't commit to the idea. Now, obviously, if you played gacha games outside of the Hoyoverse titles, you would know this is a Hoyoverse exclusive problem. But considering how mainstream WoWa is becoming, the concern was still valid. So not only did Wuthering Waves not turn Frolova into a morally good character, they made sure to acknowledge that our main character, Rover, did not like her even a little bit. In fact, many would argue he was way more hostile than he needed to be. 80% of this scenario is Frolova trying to get Rover to warm up to her, and most of the time she failed. And if you're not a total simp, you should be agreeing with Rover here. But as we go further into the story, we learn more and more about Frolova's backstory, and it's about as tragic as you can get. Speaking in abstract terms here, she's an undead. She's literally trying to die because her existence is so miserable, and has been for centuries. The only thing that keeps her going is her obsessive goal of bringing her family back. Through her efforts, she learned how to control the tacit discords, which are basically the mass horde of fodder in this game. And she used these monsters to terrorize humanity. And what drives this home is Frolova has been a constant antagonist even at the beginning of 1.0. So we as a player know fully well just how much of a danger she is. Things come to a head during 2.5. There's another villain that had to be taken care of. This same villain betrayed Frolova and severely injured her. At the same time, Rover was pulled into an area that was practically a maze to him, but Frolova could act as his guide. This leads to a fragile alliance between the two of them. And one would think this is a time where the game humanizes Frolova and you start to understand her more. And you'd be right. But here's the problem. Rover just doesn't get caught up in that. It's not like he doesn't care, but he knows fully well that she is an enemy and doesn't deserve sympathy.
Losing that much blood and not even trying to treat it? If you really wanted to die, I could have made it quicker for you.
Personally, even though I agree we should not trust Frolova right off the bat, I found him to be unusually cold, even after learning about her backstory. Speaking of the backstory, I mentioned it a few times already, so I should just talk about it, because it actually is the catalyst of this entire thing. Frolova was born in a small, nameless village. This community grew to love music, and so that naturally transferred to Frolova. Through this, she became a very talented violinist, and she would leave her village to become a famous musician. She would become successful and would return to the village to meet her family again. But on this day, a meteor struck her home. I know this sounds very weird, but it sounds much better in context. No one survived except Frolova, and she didn't even understand how she did. But more importantly, with the loss of her home and her family, she worked on finding a way to revive them. This is what led her to becoming a scientist, doing countless experiments, and even experimenting on herself out of desperation. Speaking broadly again, her experiments made her an undead. She was practically an immortal being now. What she didn't realize, however, was going to such lengths would cause her peers to deem her a freak of nature. Everyone excommunicated her, and Frolova was left alone. All she had left was her music. Hiding all of her past, she held onto that one thing and became a composer. During this time of her long life, she met someone unique, Rover. One conversation with him made Frolova believe she had found someone who looked beyond the surface of her music and understood the tragedy behind it.
You didn't clap.
Perhaps a silent mourning is more suitable for such a depressing piece.
In response to her feelings, he told her the pain she feels could be used to make change within herself through the power of starting over. It was how he managed to change. She was quite interested in learning what he meant by this, but before she could move forward, she wanted to complete her music. She needed to find a way to convey the voices of those who had died. Rover then told her that once the music was complete, he will come see her again.
Frolova, when this piece is truly complete, I'll come back.
Is that a promise?
Yes. No matter where I am, I'll return. Every promise matters. Once I make one, I'll see it through, no matter the cost.
The promise was made, and Rover left a Frolova who felt joy for the first time in many years. But here's the kicker. That was the Rover of the past. Since then, he had erased his memories. This is why we have an amnesiac protagonist. He chose to erase his memories for reasons still unknown to us, and to Rover himself even. Furthermore, this isn't the first time he erases memories either. Again, we don't know why he does this, but he is aware that this is a conscious choice he makes every time he does. Thanks to this, he literally forgot that he ever made this promise to Frolova, and she waited a very, very long time for him to appear again. According to her diary, this did lead her into another bout of depression, or at the very least, this broken promise made her go numb to her own feelings. Worse yet, this provided a window of opportunity for the big boss of the Praxidus to swoop in and recruit her so she can find the means to revive her family. So, in a way, the reason why Frolova is the way she is now is because of Rover. Even Rover himself was shocked by this. He couldn't believe that he could be that much of a dick. He even had to ask Frolova directly if what he saw was something that she just made up. He practically asked, "Am I the asshole here?"
That piece. Did I really hear it before?
Whether it's real or not, it changes nothing.
When their mutual enemy was taken care of, Rover immediately stood on business. He's like, "I know you had a fucked up life, but you are sinful as hell." Obviously, she doesn't like this. Everything she does is an effort to save her family. But Rover says that's impossible, and she is being manipulated by the Fraxidus. And for the most part, he's right. But then this was turned around. Much like how Rover operates, Frolova wants to make the impossible possible. And all she needs to do that is time. And she has all the time in the world. Every failure is another sign to start over again. Besides, why should she care about the world? It has done everything possible to make her suffer. Even the one she fell in love with never came back. Oh yes, Rover has amnesia. Of course he wouldn't remember the promise, but he chose to forget. Why would such a good-hearted person throw away the bonds and warm relationships they nurtured in the past? Why leave all of them behind? The thing is, Rover is seemingly immortal. He has lived for over 1,000 years. Maybe, just like her, Rover also needs time to repeat again and again to find the answers he needs. The only difference is, she's not a coward to remember her failures. And this is where everyone went, "Ah, shit, she's right though." Rover fucked up, and there's no way around that. At best, we can assume that he erases his memories to gain a new perspective in life. But every time he does, he leaves his friends and others behind. And to be real for a moment, Rover is a Riz master. From just the main story alone, not going into any companion stories, he currently has 4 women drooling over him. 2 of them are carryovers from his past life. One of them was informed beforehand and was supportive of it, but the other was left pretty broken without his presence. This moment with Frolova is a story acknowledging that his choices affect others, and they have consequences. And one of those consequences is one he's facing right now. Now, if it was just this, the reaction to this story would be kind of childish. Yes, what the Rover of the past did was messed up, but this is all from the perspective of Frolova. We still don't have any idea why Rover chooses to remove his memories. But we do know Rover, as it is right now, is trying to save the world while Frolova herself is working with the people who are trying to destroy it. It really would just be Frolova simps on her side if this were the case. But this was pressed further. Yeah, Rover just kills her. No hesitation or anything. And he pretty much just moves on to the next task. Rover is as cold as the Antarctic for this. And this is where people started to buy a ticket on the first-class flight to the hate train. People were literally screaming, "No, this is not my main character." And as an aside, there is a cutscene after the story quest that explains Frolova is still alive. But she's alive like how Aerith from Final Fantasy VII is alive, in which she pretty much isn't. And that's the gist of the story. Personally, this debate these two had was very nuanced. I don't think anyone agrees with Frolova destroying humanity. But you know the saying, villains are not born, they are made. It stands to reason that if Rover of the past kept its promise to Frolova, this never would have happened. Or at least, the likelihood of it happening goes way down. She may have been able to accept the hand dealt to her, as garbage as it was, as long as she has someone to share that pain with. Rover was pretty much the last hope she held on to for that. But I'm going to bring in the other side of the perspective here. Was this really Rover's responsibility to prevent? Could he have known that Frolova was that broken? Of all the things that happened to her, should that broken promise really have thrown her off the deep end? And let's be real here. That conversation was just that, a conversation. Rover does factor into Frolova's downfall, no doubt. But I don't believe all blame should be squarely on him. Also, Frolova may not be inherently evil, but her actions are. She kills people for a living. At some point, blaming others is no longer a factor. But what personally gets me the most is something I haven't seen anyone else talk about. Rover just doesn't apologize. It would be way too late to make one, but if I were Rover, that's what I would have done in that moment. There was just no sympathy from him whatsoever, to the point where I feel it may actually be out of character. But I don't have any evidence that supports this. It's just a feeling. This is personal history between them that is unresolved, and Frolova clearly held on to this for an amazingly long time. Even without memories, Rover has shown to be very emotionally receptive to people he has met in his past life. As I'm writing this, I'm guessing I'm on Rover's side, but I 100% would have approached this differently. Which leads to one major thing. This event flies in the face of players who believed Rover is a self-insert character. There's been many times in the past where players have argued that Rover has no personality. He's an infallible being that always wins, does no wrong, and gets the bitches. It's understandable why people thought this way. He's an amnesiac protagonist, and this is typically done as an easy way to make characters a blank slate, so players can forge the characters into what they want. But I will argue this has never been the case. Rover has always been his own character with his own motivations, even from the very beginning of the game. He has just done things that we as the player have agreed with until now. Now, this is for the actual Wuthering Waves players watching this. Think about when you talk about the story with others, or even just play the game. Did you ever reference Rover as yourself? Did you ever say I, or me, or we? Has that changed? Do you now just see Rover as just Rover? Do you look back on his past actions and wonder if he actually is the being of justice that everyone sees him as? Was stopping Shorekeeper from sacrificing herself the right call? What about Cartadia? Those choices do affect the entire world. And what about Rover of the past? Remember when Scar said that Rover is already the center of all the conflict? And literally everyone he's met up to that point already know how valuable he is?
You are the unknown variable we've been waiting for. Forces have been fighting for possession over you. From the moment you opened your eyes, everyone you've met, including that girl you care so much about, they all knew how valuable you are. The world is a cruel place. You are a living, breathing person, but you're just a pawn to many.
1.0's plot was not good, but that scene with Scar is still absolute cinema. And thanks to 2.5, is still extremely relevant. What were his actions? Is he actually a god that everyone loved? Or is he a tool that everyone needed? Rover, in his entirety, has always been a mystery that needs to be solved. And listen, I don't even see this as like the best story chapter ever presented in a gacha game. There's a lot of good writing in gacha games, as much as people seem to deny that. But Wuthering Waves is absolutely one of the most popular ones. The reason why I'm personally excited about how 2.5 went down is despite the discourse around it, everyone loves it. I haven't seen a single person say this is a bad story patch. And this could set a strong precedence for gacha games to take more risk with their stories, especially as they masterfully tackled consequences and death. While mishandling villains is a Hoyoverse exclusive problem, just about every other gacha game is allergic to putting in real stakes in their stories. If a character is playable, they essentially have immunity to any sort of death flags. This has always bothered me, because it neuters any and all conflicts. My pipe dream is companies see this positive reception, and they take it as a sign that they can take these risks, and understand that good writing and captivating your audience will make them more money over playing it safe every time. But yeah, TLDR, go play Wuthering Waves.